Hi guys, welcome to Tuesday's Live, favorite day of the week, and I'm so excited. I'll remind you right off the bat that we are going to Malaysia to promote global sound money at the Nomad Capitalist Live on Friday. So just in a few days, it's been a big rush, but there's been a lot that's happening in the markets. Can we pull up the first slide, please? We're going to get into gold and silver, the spot markets in just a second, but this came up this morning on Turkey. And basically the point is that Turkey, the government, is selling off some of their income producing assets, in this case, a bridge, a multi-billion-dollar deal for iconic bridges. So the point that I'm trying to make in this is part of the strategy happens as we're moving through this trend cycle. Desperate governments do desperate things. And one of the things that they do is they sell off their income producing assets, say like these main bridges, or like a main police force, or the Senate building, or something like that. We will get into this more as we go along, but I'm going to have to go to Turkey because Turkey keeps proving my point. And this is one of the things that we're going to look for. It is not time yet. They are too far ahead of this. We still need a major global crisis, which I don't know exactly when we're going to have that, but I can pretty much tell you we're going to have it. So again, Turkey is showing the whole point of what we are doing is setting up to position into gold. Actually, it would be this kind of gold that we would be positioning into. And there are different layers of this depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. But there will come a point in here where we will convert this into those income producing assets, whether it's from the government needing to sell a toll road or a parking lot or whatever they've gotten, or individuals needing to do it based upon the leverage. So all that building that you see going on, I mean, I know here in Phoenix, you'd think everything was hunky-dory, but those things take a long time to put into place. So if they're highly leveraged, they're going to be coming back on the market. And I truly believe, we'll see, but I truly believe that this next time, because it's the very end game, it will look very similar to the early 90s in Japan, where residential real estate dropped 85% from the high, and commercial real estate dropped 95%. So be prepared. Okay, because it's coming. But what I also wanted to show you is what's happening in the spot market, because we recently talked about that top, where it goes up to a level and it pulls back. Well, of course, we've had another breakout. And the reason where you're seeing that little circle, I want to warn you, there is a tiny little gap. And you're going to see the same kind of thing on the spot silver chart as well, where there is a tiny little gap. And here's the thing. At some point, all gaps will be filled. That means that you can expect a bit of a pullback on the spot market to fill that gap. I can't tell you exactly when, but you can see the red when you're looking at this chart. That red is down days, right? And so we will get those, but spot gold and spot silver have broken out to more new highs. Will this continue? Yes, it will, because uncertainty is just growing and growing and growing. Something else that I really wanted to bring up is this article that one of our strategy specialists found and shared. Vietnam erases 86 million bank accounts. The Great Reset in motion. And this comes from Armstrong Economics, whom I'm hoping to have him on soon. But Vietnam has erased and or frozen 86 million unverified bank accounts as the nation surrenders to the globalist Great Reset, because these owners of these, well, they're not really owners of the bank accounts. The banks own them. But the people's name that was on there, they must be biometrically verified. It's one world government, and they really want to get you inside of this box where they have absolutely full control. So I will be looking into this even more, because coming to a theater near you, we certainly know in India there's been a huge push for a number of years in the biometrics, and they went ahead and did a denomination where they denominated about 85% of all of the currency that was out there. So I'm telling you, whenever it happens anywhere, all of the central bankers are paying attention and are watching. They want full control. I don't want them to have full control. Do you? So here's what we can do. We can become our own central bankers. We can execute a sound money strategy, come together in local community to create surety in all of those mantra pieces: food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. And when we're doing that, we've also got to come together in global community and demand redeemable gold back in the monetary system again. If we don't take our power back this time, I don't know when the next opportunity is. Now, it isn't going to be before the stablecoins create that hyperinflation. No matter what happens, they have to generate that hyperinflation to get rid of all the debt. So we may see, actually, technically, I believe it began in 22. So, and I say that because of the monetary velocity chart and that huge pattern shift. And that's what I try and show you in everything that I'm doing. What's the pattern? Because when something shifts, it doesn't matter that you don't know what the next most likely outcome or the next outcome is going to be. You just know, something has changed. And make no mistake, when President Trump signed the Genius Act, he changed the global monetary system, because that was the first legalization of this surveillance money, this programmable money. So we need a big crisis. You're going to see this. You're going to see the Fed and all the global central banks starting to do this again with the more money printing. They don't really have any choice. They don't really have any tools. They have to get rid of the debt, because they have answered my question. What's going to justify new money creation? Well, first it's going to be yours and my spending, right? Amazon, Walmart, you're going to see so many stable coins being issued by all of these corporations. And then those corporations will turn around and buy U.S. Treasury debt to, will it be fast enough to support the market from those that are leaving? I don't know. But that's the next piece. Is it going to happen fast enough? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but we'll find out. If, however, you have all of those 8 mantra pieces installed in a local community, your standard of living will be reasonably protected. Is it going to change? Sure. Everybody's standard of living is going to change. Everybody's. Nobody's going to be completely immune from this. But whether or not you have the ability to feed your family, that's going to matter a lot in this next iteration. That's why growing a garden is so important. You've got to create surety in the things that you need every single day. So with that, I'm going to just jump to the questions. And Robert J. asks, I have heard you talk about gold going to its fundamental value and also the government doing a revaluation of the price of gold. Can you please explain the difference? Well, there's actually pretty much those are the same things, because what happens is when the public loses confidence in those that are in power, those that are in the system, gold is always brought into play, because even though we've been trained away from gold, it's still in our vernacular. I mean, you still have good as gold, the goose that laid the golden egg. The cryptocurrencies are depicted as gold, mostly gold and silver and platinum. So people understand the value of gold. Most people will buy their wedding bands are gold. I know a lot of men now go into titanium, and maybe some others do too. But frankly, most of the wedding bands are gold. Why? Gold is lasting wealth. So that first part of them, it's not really, it's pretty much the same thing. And I can't tell you how many overnight resets there will be to get us into the new system. What did we see? Oh, you might not have seen this yet, because that's on the three-part series that I did on FOMC member Barr's speech. So you will see this, that it was the corporations that absolutely helped kick off the first in 1914 by converting their corporate debt into Federal Reserve notes. Also in the 80s, because what is the Federal Reserve but a private corporation, right? So you'll see the same kind of behavior, the liftoff of the new system. And we've seen it certainly since 2008 in a rather big way. We will also see this massive inflation happen with the stablecoins. And I can't tell you exactly when you're going to notice it, but it's not that far down the road. I'm prepared to say that. Do you think both of these will happen, or if not, which one will happen? Yes, I do. I'll give you 100% certainty that I do think that both of those are going to happen, because I've got 4,800 examples of where this has happened in the past. And I do not think this time is different. I just don't know how many overnight resets it's going to take. In this country, we had 2 in the beginning, back in 1913 and 14 and 33. And then actually after 33. And then we had 2 more to transition us into a pure debt-based system, roughly a little bit more than a year apart in 72 and 73. And so we'll see how that works. And some of you may go, we had resets? We had overnight resets here? Yeah, we did. Not 3,500%, but yeah, in the 20% range. So yep, we did. You'll see this in that series, so make sure you don't miss that. And if gold goes to its fundamental value, do you think this would happen before or after a possible confiscation? Well, history shows that the confiscation happens first, because they don't want you to protect yourself. I want you to protect yourself. So I do the pre-33s, because that's where my level of comfort is. If I cannot hold it in an IRA, I'm good with it. And I can't hold these in an IRA, even though they're all standardized. So that's how it works. There will be a confiscation of whatever gold there is. And maybe if not many people jump on this bandwagon, then they don't really need to do an overt confiscation. But if I have my druthers, that means you're all buying gold and silver. And on a global basis, everybody is converting their garbage fiat into sound money and demanding that that gold be put back in. If we really get a good rise in that global population or the American population buying gold, then an overt confiscation is highly likely. We've done it before. This is not something new. And it was just the last time in 33. They did it 2 other times historically. The War of 1812 and not the Revolutionary War. Oh my goodness. It's the Civil War. The Civil War. So, I mean, I even have this is the state of Florida, but here. Yep. This is a Confederate note. what can I buy with this? Nothing. What did it cost me? Not much, because I don't put a lot of money into this. I don't even put a lot of fiat into old fiat. A little bit, because it's good for me to show you some history. But yeah, before the confiscation is when that will happen. I am 100% certain that it will happen. That is the historic norm, and this time is not different. So we want to make sure that we have enough participation so that we have a real strong voice. And how do you vote? You vote with your wallets. If you do nothing, that's a vote for the new system, where you have no control or any say, just a lot of surveillance and a lot of permission that you're going to have to ask. Yeah, let's take our power back. We can do this. And Twisted Player 73 asks, how do the vigilantes work when Fed can print money? Think I'll come stay with you for a week. I have a million questions. Thank you, Lynette. I am grateful for you, and I am grateful for you guys too. You have enhanced my life so much. Thank you. And I can turn that right around and say that to you guys too. But the question is, how do the vigilantes work when the Fed can print money? It's not the vigilantes stopping the Fed from printing money. It's how much that new money is going to cost. So the vigilantes can go in, they can sell bonds to push interest rates up or force the governments to go into higher debt or higher interest rate bonds for the vigilantes to buy the debt. So the vigilantes work by forcing the movement in interest rates up or down, but the vigilantes up. They force the governments to pay more to buy that debt. That's how they do it. And Colleen Allen asks, what are some of the gold coins that are smaller in value that one could use for bartering for things like an appliance, say valued at $200 to $300? I would not want to use silver coinage. What coin is a 20th of an ounce? The $1 gold coin, this little itty bitty coin that you see between my fingers, that is a 20th of an ounce. So there's $1. Then there is $2.50. There's a $3 as well, but I don't actually have one. There is a $5, and I don't know if you can see this this way. This is the $5. Oops. And the $10, and then the 1 ounce. So there's your 20th of an ounce. There's your 1 ounce. There's your 2.5. You see the difference in size? So there are a lot of ways that we can do that using gold. I will also remind you that gold and silver in any form is monetary at its base. So you might have some 10-karat gold class rings or something like that, depending upon how old you are, because I couldn't even tell you where my class ring was. But, you know, you might have some jewelry. I know I started my daughters out with 10 carats, so that's another way that you can play it. But just know that there's a whole bunch of ways that you can accumulate gold. And if these things are broken, what difference does it make if you clip it off? So that's another way to do it. And they do, not on the pre-33s, but they do have these little sheets, bar sheets that are teeny weeny. So just call us. We'll help you figure out what's going to support all of your needs. Though I dare say, by the time you're bartering, I don't know how many appliances would be $200 to $300. Probably substantially more. But there's a whole array of a variety of coins. I also like foreign gold coins. This happens to be a rooster. And I didn't even realize I had this until I needed to stack up some gold for something that we were doing. And I actually have, I didn't even know I had it. I have a 1976 Cougaran right there. So they're foreign gold that could also work for that. Remember, if you cannot hold it inside of an IRA, it's in a different classification. That's what you want. And Pepito asks, I saw an ad this morning stating that a gold reset would grow your 401k and IRA. What is your take on this? Well, if you're holding that gold inside of an IRA, and remember that they are looking at enabling alternative assets, not just private equity, but some of the discussion is all around gold in holding it inside of your 401k. I think that the reason why they are likely to do that is to offset the other losses in your 401k. But certainly if you're holding gold in an IRA or a 401k and the currency gets reset, then in terms of this stuff, it would make it look like it's growing, but then also the taxable event and the government's ability to take it away from you is also there too. I like doing, you've got to do whatever you're comfortable with regardless of what anybody says. But my personal preference for my retirement wealth is outside of the traditional ways. They set these things up in the 70s. The IRAs came in the 70s, and then the 401ks came in the 80s to transfer the risk from the corporations onto the public that really doesn't understand any of these markets. I like more control, and I'd certainly like a whole lot more privacy. So even though for many years I had a SEP IRA, I converted it. I paid my whatever, penalties, taxes, and I have a nice retirement plan, but I hold it. I control it. I determine everything about it. So, Butterman. Share with us, Butterman asks, share with us how revaluing gold will impact everyday necessities. Okay, so first we've got the hyperinflation. So all your everyday necessities in terms of this stuff will escalate, right? So a pack of gum that might, I never buy gum, so I really don't even know how much it is, but let's say it's about $1 now. It could go to $1,200, which sounds outrageous. But what they would do is they would lop off the zeros. So then from 100 to 1,200, now it's back to just 12. So it looks like the prices have come down, but your money has also come down at that same rate. So that doesn't really help you very much. On the other side of that, gold typically on average, I don't know how long it's going to be, but typically gold will revalue as well, but it'll stay up at that high level because it will explode up in the hyperinflation and the overnight reset, and it typically will hang out on average about 9 months. This is when only part of the strategy would get executed, the part that pays off that fixed rate debt. And we do have an exit strategy. We have it, we're laying it all out, so it's something that we will have to plan. And if you're working with us, we're going to help you know, okay, this is when you're going to send in your gold and you're going to convert it and you're going to get rid of that fixed rate debt. That's not the whole part of the strategy, but that is with that very first overnight reset. If you're sitting on any kind of mortgage, this is true anywhere in the world, right? This is where the sound money strategy works for everyone, right? What you're going to do is when we do that overnight reset, and then particularly if you're working with us, everything will be scheduled as to when you will be liquidating. You will have a heads up. We'll have everything in place before that happens. And then when it does happen, you're going to have to be like right on top of it, or it kind of depends. It kind of depends on how you've structured things with us. But that's basically how the revaluing gold, everyday necessities, yes, they'll drop. The zeros will be lost off the end, but so will your purchasing power. You won't really get ahead. It'll just look like it. You'll have the perception of it. Gold typically will hang out there about 9 months. That's when we execute the fixed rate debt part of the strategy, not the income producing part of the strategy, the fixed rate debt part of it. And that's also when actually going into it up to that point, as the hyperinflation starts, that's what your barterable portfolio is about. And it's built in layers. So those layers are also going to include some of this fiat, because that's what is going to be most recognized, especially if we can do it before they take us fully digital and eliminate gold in the system. I'm telling you, when countries do this kind of stuff, everybody's watching. They're watching for compliance. They're watching for global reaction. They're watching for their citizens' reaction. And if they get a negative reaction, they might pull back a little bit and then try again. So you want to just be in position so that none of this impacts you. That's all. You've got to have some sound money outside of the system. And Camfet Bosana, hey Lynette, looks like the gold movement is taking place pretty fast. You know about the gold backs. The states are starting to release. How much further along are we to a stagflationary period? I think, honestly, we're already there. I think we're in stagflation. So what is stagflation? Well, that is the price of everything going up through inflation, but wages not keeping pace. So that's stagflation. Wages, of course, never keep pace with the inflation, but they still want the wages to rise so that you have the perception that you're okay. In stagflation, you don't have that perception. I remember the stagflation that happened as we were transitioning onto a pure debt-based system, and the oil embargo, the energy issues, and the civil rights issues, and the women's movement issues, and the inflationary issues. I mean, I remember all of that. Anybody that's my age probably does, because we were old enough to not necessarily understand it, but at least see the impact of it. So, yeah, I think we're already in the stagflationary period. Increase in wages have definitely slowed down, but the prices of goods and services have not. We're there. And Toya Avant asks, I know you stated the price you think silver should be. However, can you state it one more time so I can send this video to friends and family for them to purchase a tube of 20? Well, yes, and let's talk about how you get these numbers, because they are not random. But this is debt. Well, it is debt money, but it is fiat money, so government debt-based money. This is sound money. What supports this is the government's ability to create even more debt. It doesn't protect it from loss of purchasing power, but it supports its existence. What supports this is every single sector of the global economy. Broadest base of buyer, broadest base of functionality. This is one place, this is every place. When they do the overnight resets, how much of this has been created? So many countries no longer publish their broad money supply, including the US. We lost that in 2006. So you go for the debt, because that's how money's created in this system. And you take all of the debt that's been created, and there is a finite amount of gold. You divide that debt by all the gold that's ever been in existence, and that comes to somewhere around 40 grand. But here's this 20th of an ounce of gold. This is the original, well, at least in this system, the original gold-silver ratio. 20th of an ounce to 1 ounce of silver, right? So now you take that number and you divide it by 20, and that tells you the true fundamental value of an ounce of silver. But what I also want you to realize is that every time they do this, that number goes up. So that $2,000 silver, that $40,000 true value of gold, that is just where it happens to be at any given moment in time. We haven't gone through the hyperinflation. So to see spot gold go to $20 million an ounce, I know that sounds outrageous, but I also know that if you went back to 1913 and told the people, well, one of these days, this little $20 gold piece the spot market will be over $3,600 an ounce, they would have looked at you like you were ridiculous as well. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generations, the speaker will seem like a lunatic. I'm not doing this in the right order. The truth will seem outrageous and the speaker a raving lunatic, but it doesn't make the truth any less. Those of us that understand the truth of a finite commodity money that has the most buyers of any asset out there at the same time that it runs zero counterparty risk. This is a contract. It's a debt instrument and it's a contract. This is complete counterparty risk. If the government says this is money, they can also say this is no longer money. And we've seen that. We've seen that not that long ago, right? This, they can't do that with. This and this, silver and gold, commodity money, they're universal. You can take these anywhere in the world and convert them into whatever the local currency is and have an amazing level of purchasing power. You cannot say that's true with this. One place. I remember when I went to France and they wanted dollars. Oh, excuse me. They don't want them anymore. They don't want them anymore. So I hope that helped, but I'm even going to have something better for you after I get back from Malaysia. We're not ready yet, but we're very close. We're very close. And Chuy Hermosillo asks, the only way to get out of system is to play their game. Don't buy gold. Well, how do you get out of the system when you're completely in the system? But you get to make that choice. It's like the cricket and the ants. I'm working diligently. Most people that are watching this are working very hard to build their reserves so that they are as independent and self-sufficient as possible. I'm guessing you're not that old, Chuy. I'm guessing you haven't gone through a currency reset. But, yeah, I mean, you can take a look at what's happening even in Mexico, and I could be wrong about that you might be familiar with that. But in Mexico, they lowered rates, and guess what's rearing its ugly head again? And that's inflation is coming back. They want us to lower the rates. That'll push the inflation up. And oh, by the way, in the 90s, they revalued the Mexican peso. They had hyperinflation. You lost your mortgages, or the mortgages were reset. I mean, you just don't understand history, but I would encourage you to learn. Follow. I give you, in all of my work, I give you the links. Follow it. Make an educated choice that puts your best interest first. Not having sound money doesn't do that. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But you get to do whatever you want. You're the one that's going to be dealing with it, not me. So Danielle Felstead asks, when the Mexican peso is 11% stronger and the Russian ruble is 42% stronger than the US dollar, be advised, the dollar is not the place to be. But what you're also looking at is one of the ways that they blind you to what's really happening. So you're just looking at one fiat debt-based currency against another fiat debt-based currency. Every single government, every single central bank manipulates the currency. When they go to a weaker currency, which is what this president wants, it's because they want to increase exports. But what they're really talking about doing is devaluing this. They want it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. This is not the trend. One horse that's ready for the glue factory against another horse that's ready for the glue factory. They're both ready for the glue factory. It is how much can you buy with it? What can you convert it into? And so, when I look at any of these currencies, what is this? 25,000 Iraqi dinars. I can't buy anything with that. You guys know this is 200,000 Vietnam dong. I can't buy anything with it. Don't be blinded by numbers. Numbers don't mean anything. And especially when you hear the word before them, either nominal or notional, what they're really saying is we have no idea what the true value is at risk. But one currency against another currency is not the trend. How much you can buy with it is the trend. And since the US dollar is anointed the world reserve currency, that's where we did the free floating system. But if you go into any currency exchange calculator and you pick a currency, any currency, I don't even care which one it is, and you pick the dollar against that currency, then use the same time frame for spot silver against that currency, and use the same time frame for spot gold against that currency. I've never seen it where the dollar has outperformed spot silver or spot gold. And both of those, as we know, are highly manipulated. So that's really your tell. That's really, really your tell. And Colleen Allen, is the 20th of an ounce of gold coin that you are demonstrating for Barter pre-33 coin? Yep, it is. It's so tiny, I'm not really sure I can see the year, but I'll try. Let's see, it's on the back. Oh, this one happens to be 1853. So yes, that is a pre-33 coin. All the ones that I was showing you for bartering are pre-1933. Yes. And Pupkine asks, will you make gardening and farming videos and streams? I'm going to let you address that, Josh, because yes, finally, yes.
We are working closely with Lynette and the farm staff. We shot something this past week. We have a little proof of concept that we still need to present to the team, but it's looking really good. And it will be informational, and it's going to be more than how-tos. It's going to be the whys behind it. Why do you spend the $56, for your first tomato when you grow your own? It's more than just the fruit. It's learning. It's becoming self-sustainable. It's learning to not be so dependent on a system that is doomed to fail. And so I'm excited. Lynette's excited. The whole gang is excited. So, and we appreciate the support in chasing this dream.
Oh, absolutely. I've been chasing this for a long time. But we've got Jessica in here now. So at some point after I get back from Malaysia, then she's going to be doing the recording and sitting in here. And then that frees Josh up to go out and do the farm videos. So we're working on it. I promise you, we are working on it. He hasn't even been up to the bug out yet. Neither has Jessica, but he will be going up to the bug out because there's a lot of great work that's been happening up there too. So we will be sharing that. And with me not bugging him it's not like he's not got a lot of work to do while I'm gone, but at least there's some things that'll be off his plate that'll free him up to do that. So great asking that question. And yep, we're getting there. We are so getting there. And Wolf asks, hi, Lynette, will pensions and Social Security be wiped out in a collapse? Absolutely, they will be. And there are a few parts to that. Like, will they continue to pay Social Security? Probably, because they'll just do this to make that happen. So it's not that you might not get some distribution from those things, although I think that a stock market collapse, a private equity freeze, many things in a 401k or other retirement plans in your pensions can take a major valuation hit. But even if they don't and they pay you off, then, or pay you out, it's how much that can buy, just like I showed you with this stuff. And even with this stuff, I mean, there was a day when $100 could buy an awful lot of goods, and actually even $20. Honestly, when I first got divorced and as I was transitioning between banking and becoming a stockbroker, and my daughters were 3 at the time, I have twins, and they were 3, and I was their sole support with a lot of upheaval around. I mean, anybody that's gone through it knows what I'm talking about there. And I didn't have a whole lot of money to make sure that I fed them. I'd take $20 to the store, and it had to stretch me as long as I could make it. They never went hungry, and they were young, so thank God. They weren't really aware of anything, but I used to be able to make a $20 bill stretch a really long way when it came to food. Can you do that anymore? No. What's $20 buy you? What's $100 of groceries buy you? So, yeah, I'm not as worried about them. The pensions will probably be pretty much wiped out. Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system. It will decline. They're not going to pay you full benefits, but whatever it is that they give you out of both of those systems won't buy anything. That's the problem. That's the real problem. That's why you need the gold and silver outside of the system. And Dr. Doom asks, is silver or gold the better buy right now? Depends on what you're trying to accomplish. For me, it's always the right tool for the job. I don't look at silver or gold, which one's going up, which one's going down, blah, blah, blah. That is not really relevant to me because I'm executing a strategy. And I've been studying this stuff since 1987. And so I'm familiar with the repeatable patterns. And I'm in position to take advantage of those repeatable patterns, as is anybody that's actually executing the Zang sound money strategy. It's the same as mine, but tweaked and customized for your goals, your circumstances, and what you have to work with. So, quite honestly, they're both severely undervalued. To me, gold and silver is not a trade. So I don't really, I pay attention to it because I know you do. But for me personally, what am I trying to accomplish? And then that's what I position into. And Hawksmoor Marabellis says, will the USG require stablecoin issuers like Amazon to buy the new convertible gold bonds rather than standard treasuries? No, they need you to buy the treasuries. It'll be the treasuries. That's what they need support in. Of course, this question assumes the creation of gold convertible bonds. Yep. Which they cannot bring gold back into the system until they have burned off all the debt in the old system. Because once you put a component of gold in there, it fixes the debt where it is. And it's already unpayable. And that's why I say, when President Trump came in, what is his job? What is his real job? I thought this in 2018, and I'm 100% certain of it now, though I was always pretty certain of it. He is a change agent. There is officially no purchasing power left in the money. So they have to attack your principal, and they have to hyperinflate all of this debt away, because the stable coins are a combination, right? Our purchases, our use of the stable coins will justify the creation of the stable coins. And then once those are created or they have that ramp up, they must be backed 1-to-1, at least if they're dollar-backed stable coins. They must be backed 1-to-1 with dollars, and that's where the treasuries come in. And the treasury market, this is so convoluted and really dangerous, because the 10-year treasury is the foundation of the global financial system. But globally, the financial system has been racing into this new digital currency. We have to get rid of the debt because it is quite clear to me now that the purchases will justify the creation of more money. That's one of the big reasons why I'm telling you that there isn't even one little doubt in my mind that the stablecoins are the mechanism to usher in that hyperinflation. And it's in that position because we don't know how many overnight resets they're going to do. But what we do know is when they come out with the final money, it'll have a component of gold in it because it has over 4,800 times. Now, the difference is, like we've seen in Zimbabwe, it's not tangible. It's not redeemable. It's just pegged. It's garbage. It doesn't mean anything. It's just bull blank, right? It has to be redeemable because if it's not, you still have no more control over those elected and unelected officials. We got to take our power back. We have to. This is the opportunity, not before the hyperinflation, but between now and when the final system gets kicked into gear. I can tell you that globally on average, there are 3 resets, but this is a global issue. And in places like Venezuela and Zimbabwe, they're now on their 6th iteration. So it can certainly be more than that. I don't know the answer to that, but we'll pay attention together and we'll move forward. If you have everything covered and you have the mantra in place, then you're in the best possible position, not just to help yourself, but to help your family, your neighbors, and everyone else. We have to come together in community, and we have to take our power back, and we have to be as independent as possible. So Minda Lick asks, what pre-1933 gold coin do you recommend to start with, please? Well, what I recommend is that you call us and you have that conversation with your strategy specialist, because it will depend on what it is you're trying to accomplish. If what you're trying to accomplish is, and how much you have to work with. I mean, if you come in with $1,000 or $5,000, I can tell you right now, you're going to be building your barterable portfolio with a combination, or maybe all silver, maybe a combination of some gold and silver. I don't know. It depends on what you have to work with. If you come in with $1 million, you're going to probably be doing everything. So that is a much deeper dive and also a more diversified portfolio, because you will have both gold and silver, but you'll have your barterable portfolio. You will have your gold that will protect whatever fiat money wealth you've managed to accomplish or accumulate, rather. You will have the kind of gold to convert into income producing assets, and it depends. For me, leaving a legacy for my family, for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren that aren't born yet is really, really important. So I have legacy gold that gets passed down through the generations. I can't control it once I'm not here anymore. And I'm hoping that I can impart enough intelligence and knowledge that just gets passed down so that future generations don't make stupid choices. That's kind of beyond, my control, but that's why I can't give you, there's no blanket answer. There is no blanket answer. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what you have to work with and where you're currently at as well. I'm sorry, but just call us. We'll help you with it. We'll help you figure it out. And Twisted Player 73, on a gold standard, would we trade as much as we do now with other countries? Absolutely. There's nothing that would eliminate or hurt the ability to do global trade or any kind of trading. So no, a gold standard would not harm our ability to trade with other countries at all. It would probably enhance it because there would be more trust there. And Eliza Raffles asks, what about people that get SSDI and have pension. How do we get our money / what digital account do you think we should have? I'm late to the party, just started my gold and silver acquisitions. Well, I'm really glad that you came, and you're not too late to the party because you can still do it. The best time to start anything was yesterday, but an equally good time is today. So I really appreciate that question. How do you get your, unfortunately, we aren't going to have any control over the digital accounts, especially if it's in Social Security or pensions that are controlled. We're going to have to rather, as you're accumulating, knowing what that is, what income you're supposed to generate in your pensions, what's in there, etc. That's that second tier where we, and the income that you generate from Social Security, that's the second and the first tier. Your barterable and your protection of what you've already accumulated. And then you go to the growth, and then you go beyond that to the income, etc., or the legacy. So I'm glad that you're accumulating, because wherever you are is more than what most people are doing. And Priestess Shaki Taropist. Okay, Priestess Shakti Taropist. I know enough about tarot cards to be kind of dangerous, but really stupid too. Anyway, is any currency safe globally? No. It's all this. That's all it is. And you see, what happened is in 1971, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, every country followed suit. Now, a lot of people think that the Swiss franc, the Swiss currency, is still the strongest currency because they were the last country to go off the gold standard. But they did that in 1978. And that means that all currencies out there are just backed by the full faith and credit of the government. And if you just translate those words, as long as you trust them, you have faith, then you will continue to loan them money, extend them credit. So all of this stuff, whether it's, I don't care which one it is, I don't care which country it is, it doesn't matter. It is simply based on your having confidence in the system. And that's why I'm always watching that confidence. And that's why actually those that are in power are constantly looking at expectations and confidence, because that's what's holding it together. There are a number of levels of trust, and all of them have been whittled away since, especially starting in 2008, bank-to-bank confidence, gone. We don't even have interbank reporting anymore. Then central bank to central bank was so that bank to bank was 2008. Central bank to central bank was 2015 with the Swiss surprise. Then in 2022, markets to the central bank happened when they kept promising us a 50 basis point move, a 50 basis point move, and then delivered a 75 basis point move. That was the one that confused me like nobody's business, because why they would give up that very important level of confidence is beyond me. But I'm not a central banker, so what can I tell you? If I was sitting at the table and had that job, which I couldn't in good conscience do it the way they're doing it, but I would not have voted to give up that level of confidence, because there's only one more level of confidence that's remaining, and that's public confidence in the system. And, we're testing that confidence. Rapid inflation erodes that confidence. When that public confidence is gone, that's when you will see, that's when the hyperinflation will start to become obvious to everybody. But so no, there is no, it's this, it's gold and silver from any country. This is the only currency, this is the only money, sound money, universal, everywhere. That's what has my confidence. And Uper Guy, do you think gold and silver will be recognized as legal tender at the federal level? Working on it. A few states do at the moment, which would keep confiscation at bay, at least in those states. And I think the states are starting to do what we need to be doing. And I can tell you that now that Daniel Diaz, if you have not watched that video with Daniel Diaz, he is the lobbyist for Citizens for Sound Money. And when I get back, we are setting up a time where he's actually going to walk me through. This will be live. It won't be on the Tuesday afternoon. We're probably going to do it like Mondays at 3 or something like that, where he will actually walk me through it, how to do that in Arizona and how to actually get involved statewide in the sound money movement. But I do believe that if we can get enough states to adopt gold and silver as legal tender, that could easily put enough pressure on the federal government to adopt that as well. So that's a grassroots, a bottom-up approach as well as a top-down approach. So hopefully we'll do it right and we'll do it well and we will get what we need, which is sound money back in the system. Got to be redeemable though. Don't fall for, okay, well, we'll do it this way because they want to keep the lie going. No, it has to be redeemable. And, and I'm going for it. I don't know if I'm going to be successful, but I know that if you join me, I got a much better shot. And Quentin Moore asks, is 24 karat gold jewelry safe when confiscation occurs? Probably so, because jewelry has a bigger markup and you're not able to hold jewelry inside of an IRA. So I think 24 karat gold jewelry is also very, 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 very soft. So you have to be careful with it. I would say most jewelry, well, here in the U.S., they use 14 karat, which I'm pretty sure is 55% pure, and 18 carats, which is 75% pure. So in India, that's where you see the 22 carats, which is also pretty soft, and 24 is very, very soft. The other metals that are inside of the, 14 and 18 karat is silver and copper. And so it just makes it a little bit stronger. But yeah, I don't think that 24 karat, now that's if you're here. When they did the confiscation in India, I think in 2018, they didn't take all of the people's jewelry, but that is a country that's used to wearing their wealth. And the government has been attempting to get people to deposit their gold jewelry and to shift that for many years. But when they did that demonetization of 82 or 85% of all the currency that was out there, they then went door to door taking some of the jewelry. So it kind of depends on where you are in this world. That may not be true everywhere. I do think that would be true here in the U.S., though. So you'd have to kind of look at their tax guys' guidance. Gloria Corey asks, regarding YT and banning certain folks, are there backup plans like Discord or Telegram? Yes, we are working on backup plans. And Josh, can you speak to that at all? I mean, have we done anything? Okay. So he kind of came in. So yes, we will be definitely, you might want to write that down for our conversation, because we're having a strategic planning session and that would come up then. But yes, that does happen. I try and be careful. It's why I really just stay neutral and on the economics, because it seems to be okay if I bash the Federal Reserve.
What's interesting about this question is Gloria was questioning why we weren't answering her question. And so like us and like me and several of the other people in the chat looked all over for it and it never came through. She tried several times. And so if you see here, she had to change how she spelled those other platforms in order for it to come through because it was blocking her comment because of these other platforms mentioned.
Interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Yep. But we are working on a bunch of alternatives, actually. We just haven't brought it up there. And Discord and some of the others, and I can't remember what the name of it is. Yes, we are working on that. And Uper Guy says, I want to be able to pay my property taxes with my precious metals. Was it Missouri? Yeah, I think it was Missouri. You can actually pay your property taxes now with precious metals. Woo-hoo! I mean, we're working on it. But worry that I will not be able to convert it back into currency when the time comes, which is possible. So that's part of your barterable. And it isn't just that the Zang sound money strategy is built in layers. It's also built in a full circle. So the gold that you would use for your property taxes, well, we built in recouping that right from the beginning, because the intention of the barterable portfolio is to pay your property taxes or any medical expenses or your utilities or any of that stuff with the metals, but we aren't counting, because part of what I also see happening with the depositories is the states to accumulate the metals and then they kind of become digital. So I would not count on having that ability in any other way to convert back into metals other than the collectibles. I don't think you'll be able to do it with the monetary gold. And let's see. Stephen Brewster asks, the UK has started floating and testing public reaction to introduce digital ID, and if implemented, it's going to be the doorway to a Chinese credit score system and loss of freedom. Absolutely. Absolutely. All of these biometrics, all of this, India's been quite aggressive with that for quite some time. And actually, who was instrumental in that and also in their demonetization was USAID, which doesn't exist anymore. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, to be honest with you. But yes, that's what they want. That is full control. And if you don't go in lockstep, then you are going to be, boom, out. And we saw it in Canada. In Canada, for goodness sake, with the perfectly legal trucker strike. That's why we have to that's why we have to have a global sound money movement. We have to do this. If we don't, all I can say is I'm glad I'm old, honest to goodness. I don't want to face what my grandkids are facing, but I'm going to do whatever it is in my power to prevent them from having to face that, or you to face that. And the only way to do it, honestly, vote with your purse, vote with your wallet, demand we take our power back, demand sound money in the system. Otherwise, you will have no voice. And you better be super independent. I mean, there are a lot of pieces to that. That's why I'm really glad that we're going to have finally we're going to be getting some really good content. I saw the little tester today, so much better than Thrivers. I mean, I can't even because that's what I said. I want this to be really good and really valuable. Well, we have the team to do that. So we are doing that. But yeah, Dr. Doom says, best to have domestic and foreign gold. I agree. They could try to confiscate all but American gold, or they could only confiscate American gold because they technically still own it. I do believe in being diversified in your metals holding as well. And so that does mean having gold, having silver, having different kinds of each. Just makes a whole lot of sense. I agree with you, Dr. Doom. And Barbara Burns asks, Mrs. Lynette, I want to say your video talking about Turkey selling their homes and cars for gold was a blessing. I was going to start saving cash to purchase my first home. I'd rather use your strategy. Absolutely. And I really appreciate it. And I love Turkey. I was telling them in our meeting yesterday, we're going to have to figure out and plan a trip there because Turkey keeps proving my point. They might be a little off in timing, but they keep proving the point. And today when I saw that they were selling 2 key bridges, like that's what governments do. So if you hold your purchasing power intact in a way that is much less likely to be confiscated because it's in the same classification as those that are either writing the rules or influence those that are writing the rules, then you will have purchasing power to convert into those income producing assets. Yep. And Hawksmoor Mirabilis asks, highly unlikely that they would confiscate retail investor gold. Look at China. It is encouraging its citizens to buy. Retail is a drop in the bucket. Well, Hawksmoor Mirabilis, then I'm guessing that you don't know a lot of the history of gold and the confiscation. Because if you don't think price manipulation is not a form of confiscation, think again. If you do not think that this garbage meant to look like this sound money wasn't a plan, think again. Because all they have to do is pay a premium. So this is what I think it's going to look like. Maybe I'm going to be right, maybe I'm going to be wrong. But this is what I think it's going to look like. They call upon your patriotic duty because most people in the U.S. that hold gold do so in their IRAs. So there is some kind of crisis and they go, we need your gold. But let's just say that spot's at $5,000 when that happens. But because you're so fabulous, we're going to pay you $7,000. Well, most people believing Wall Street's lie would go, well, wow. It's only worth $5,000. They're willing to pay me $7,000. Okay. And they do this huge sweep of the IRAs, and they probably will get some people that accumulated gold out at a much lower level to turn their gold in, even if it's not inside of a retirement plan. Then after they get the gold, well, then that's when they do the revaluation. But when you're looking at these things that you cannot hold inside of an IRA, there are some 1-ounce coins that can go for $18 million. Are they going to turn that in for $7,000? And if you're able to spend $18 million on 1 ounce of gold, well, who are you? You are you're in the 1%, no doubt about it. And that means you're either the person that writes the laws and the rules or you have the ability to influence them. So that's why I want my sound money. I mean, look, people can say whatever they want, but I was there with my Uncle Al when you couldn't hold more than 5 ounces of gold, and he had at least 3,000 ounces of this stuff. He could use it in the normal marketplace. I've had so many people tell me, well, I just won't turn it in. Okay, but if you have, here, this is an American Eagle, this is a new coin. Well, if you have this and you cannot use it in the normal marketplace because it would be way too obvious, then what are you doing with it? You'd have to use it in the black market. I don't want to do that. I don't want to break a law. I want to do everything perfectly legal because I'm trying to establish the future for my family. I know I can do it with this. I mean, I can't guarantee it because governments can do anything they want. But historically, I know I can do it with this. I do not know that I can do it with this. This requires this, hopium. You are hoping that this time is different, but it never is. But you got to do what you're comfortable with, no matter what anybody says. But that's true for me too. And I've been studying this for longer than anybody else that I know. Doesn't mean that I know everything, because I for sure don't. And I certainly can't control anything into the future. I can just control whether or not I show up and I do the work. And that's what I can absolutely guarantee, because that's why I'm here. So, and by the way, you're bringing up China. It was in 2006 that China actually allowed their citizens to buy gold again. But most of the gold that the Chinese citizens have been accumulating are held in the banking system. So there's not really a whole lot of doubt in my mind, because, I mean, how free are the Chinese public? So it's very easy to do a gold confiscation if most of the gold is held in the banking sector, right? So I do not think that that is proof positive that they will not confiscate gold again, because China really doesn't care if their public is unhappy or happy. They're more used to being in line, but it is another tool to accumulate gold for the Chinese government, and it's a new way. They couldn't hold gold before 2006. And so I want to remind you, though, thank you, Josh. I want to remind you that the lives will keep happening while I'm gone. Emerald Fox, also known as the oh, wow, thank you. The Ginger Goddess, also known as the Ginger Goddess, will be filling in for me. And this is the perfect time for all of you guys to ask about whatever the inner workings of Zang Enterprise, because she also happens to be the vice president of operations. So she knows that system inside out. I mean, don't even ask me those questions. I would have to refer them to her. So you have an absolutely perfect opportunity to do that. And I really appreciate your support on these lives, because to me, these lives are critically important. And Chris Willis asks, it's an update on a question I posed months ago about an Australian affiliate that uses your whole strategy. Lynette said you were working on it, and we still are, and we're getting even closer. So I will be back in Australia in March of 2026, and I do think that prior to that, we should have that in place. We are working on it not just in Australia, but in a number of different countries on all different continents. So I promise you, we are working on that diligently. And hopefully I will see you, Chris, in Australia in 2026. I can't give you too many details at this point, but I do know that we have the dates confirmed. And Linvis Canvas, hi Lynette, have you seen footage of Nepal and France protests? I have not. Can you bring it up so we can see them? And do I like ducats? I don't have any ducats. The ducats, you have to check the date on the ducats. While he's pulling that up, we'll come back to that footage in a second. So the ducats are new. And no, I'm not a fan, because I'm not a fan of new gold. I think it is more than likely to be confiscated. Okay, so you can see this. Block everything. Protests and pigs head Royal France as Macron installs new prime minister. You know, there is definitely a crisis of confidence in the whole of the Eurozone as well. So what does that say? French authorities
say they're bracing for possible acts of sabotage and other violence when tens of thousands of protesters are expected to respond to online calls to disrupt the country on Wednesday, potentially compounding France's latest political crisis triggered by the government's collapse.
Yep. I mean, and the other thing about that is France's debt is now at the same level as Italy's debt. Now, Italy, being a slow pay, had a lower had to pay higher interest rates because they weren't as stable. And so what does this tells you? Stability around the world is falling apart wherever it is that you are. I will look into that further. And Stephen Brewster asks, Lynette, can we safely say we have broken out of the cup and handle chart now? Is that gold and silver? That is true for gold, not yet for silver. We have to cross that $50 mark, and then we will have broken out the handle. So can you pull up a long-term chart on silver so we can look at that a little bit more? Because I just did a shorter term one for that.
Do you want to pull it up on your computer so you can navigate it easier?
Sure. I can do that. Here we go. Oops.
I have 100 years.
That's enough. We probably don't really need the 100 years, but that's okay. It'll do the same thing. And actually, you can see on this chart. Okay, I'm gonna work with that one. What's the date? What's the last date that they're doing that? No, that's the first date.
It starts in 1915, goes to September 2025.
Okay, so this is current, and you can see that double cup, right? That's really clear. But it hasn't gone up to that last top level, which is $50. So I don't think I don't know what's happening at the moment with spot silver, but we have to break above that top line. Then we will have broken out and you will see the handle. We've absolutely done that with gold. We could be doing that any moment with silver. So we're pretty close. So gold, yes, silver, no, but it's working on it. You can see it really obviously. So you see, it's very close. Needs to go just a little bit more. And Leslie Drabness, if the government is going to confiscate our gold, then how is it wise to get it? Well, it depends on the form that you get it in, because it's the only thing that will protect you. So they confiscated the gold from the citizens in 33, but if the people had really understood the law, they wouldn't have had to give up their gold. You know, Treasury Secretary Wooden didn't. All they had to do was say, this is my collection. I'm not holding it because it's gold. I'm holding it because it's my collection. So that's where the pre-33s come in, and that additional layer of protection enabling you to hold them. Because, you know, this is a $20 gold piece. This is also a $20 gold piece. This is raw. You see me pick it up and touch it and could throw it around. And actually, I'm going to be donating this after tomorrow anyway, because I do that to help the community that I'm working with raise funds. So, and I'll probably give them that specific coin. But in this capacity, this has never been in circulation. This one was. Now remember, back then, the gold was intended to be in circulation, as is the silver. So you just go to the pre-33, you go to the collectibles, because you've got that extra layer of protection. This is why I have very little. I'm not wearing the travel bracelet, but my travel bracelet, this is a piece of bullion. If I can hold it in my IRA, I don't buy it for collecting. I have this because I want to be able to hold it up when I talk to you. Same reason why I have this, right? I don't really own any Bitcoin because it's the Trojan horse that was designed to get you inside of the system. And I just can't ethically do that. I can't support that lie. So yeah, you just do the gold that is less likely to be confiscated. That's the pre-33. And with the foreign gold coins, that's pre-1948. Pre-1948. Then you have what's classified as a collectible, and you're covered. What if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? If you're sitting with this kind of gold, doesn't matter whether you're, oops, that's the wrong one. This kind of gold, doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. That's the easiest way to do it. It's not rocket science. Just make sure that no matter what happens, you're covered. And if I understand correctly, holding physical gold won't get confiscated. Well, look, the Bank for International Settlements, which is the central bank's central bank, states quite clearly that gold held at home is not subject to geopolitical risk, but it is if it's monetary gold, and new gold is classified as monetary gold. And the easiest way to check it is, what can I hold in an IRA? So no, it can be confiscated even if it's physical. It depends on the date of it. And Wendy David asks, if they confiscate it, what does that mean? That means that they will remove from you the only tool that you have to protect your purchasing power. That's what that means. And then you will be completely in the full surveillance system if that's the only kind of gold that you have. You know, there are other ways. I mean, you see me wear jewelry, and I wear jewelry because gold and silver in any form is monetary at its base. And you can't hold gold in an IRA, can you? So that's because it's more of a collectible, and a lot of that has to do with the premium. So there are ways to accumulate gold and silver even during and after a confiscation. There are ways to do it. It just gets more and more expensive, because now imagine that they've taken the bullion out of the system, and the only way for you to actually own gold is this way. What does that do to the premiums of this stuff? Makes them go up. And Eliza Raffles asks, there's no control over public pension or SSDI. Should we somehow have dumped into Monero? Hate crypto, don't want it, and refuse any biometric that gets into your body. Absolutely agree with you. That's the importance of local community, because there's power and strength in numbers. That's the whole point of having redeemable gold and demanding it in the system. They're not going to volunteer that. Those that are in power, they want to remain in power, and they want to have their way with you just like they always have. I say no. I say let's take our power back. Let's make a difference. And you know, if you're covered, great. But all those other people that aren't, your neighbors, your loved ones, we've got to come together in local community and create that surety in all of the 8 mantra pieces. And that's because that's what we need to live a reasonable standard of living. Do you really want somebody dictating everything? Because whose best interest is that going to be in? And what they want, I mean, look, have they gotten us used to all these subscriptions? They want everything tokenized so that you have to lease the cup that you drink your coffee or this happens to be bone, well, it's empty, but it happens to be bone broth. You know, they want you to lease everything. You own nothing. The World Economic Forum, you own nothing. Well, doesn't that sound like feudal times where you just had a handful of people that owned everything and then everybody else was renting everything? Guess who gets to dictate the prices if they are the ones that own everything? It's not going to be you, and it's not going to be in your best interest. Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of that. And so that's what we have to do. We have to come together to fight it. Or, God, I mean, babies born will have the chip implanted in them. Ugh, I don't like this stuff. Keenan Eves asks, what modeling... That's very, very kind of you to say, especially with an old woman. I don't work for any modeling agency, but thank you so much. I did, however, buy some new tool that you're going to see me playing with my hair a little bit more. How much of a premium is it on average to convert gold eagles to pre-33 gold? Okay, I'm sorry, you're not going to like this answer. It depends, because when it's raw, there's not that much of a premium in it. When it's slabbed, then the premium is a little bit higher. So that takes us back to the importance of understanding the true fundamental value of an ounce of gold. But the premium's going to vary. So call us, we'll talk to you about it. But again, it's got to always be based on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And we reveal everything, by the way. We reveal everything, whether you like it or you don't like it, because we believe in open and honest communication. And I can guarantee you this, the premiums and the fees and all of the stuff that you don't know about is always going to be a lot more expensive than what you do know about. So at least if you know about them, well, we plan for that. That's part of the strategy, is to recoup any losses, any fees, any taxes, any barterable, any cash, anything. So that's all part of the strategy in this full circle moment. That's what it's about. And Restamon, I made a mistake by buying mostly gold bullion. What should I do? Should I trade my gold bullion for pre-33s? Well, Restamon, you have to do whatever it is that you're comfortable with, but that is the choice that I personally have made, other than the little bit that I have in my bracelet. And, you know, it always depends on where we are in the trend cycle. Before we hit the fourth part of it, where 100% there was absolutely no doubt, that's it, that's when the confiscation became more dangerous, I would say. And so up to that point, I mean, honest to goodness, it's how I bought this house, was accumulating my down payment and a big chunk in gold eagles. That's how I did it. But once we hit this certain level in the trend cycle, I no longer felt comfortable with the bullion. And so, yeah, I then converted all of my bullion into the pre-33s. And I had pre-33s before that anyway. So, because again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And for me, I was trying to accomplish a down payment on this property that we're filming in. And I used the bullion for that. But once we got to a certain point, I just no longer felt comfortable with it. So you have to do what you're comfortable with. And I'm going to say, give us a call and let us help you figure out what works the best for you. And we will reveal everything to you. Whether you like it, you don't like it, we have to be open and honest with each other. We have to be. And Stephen Brewster asks, hey, Lynette, apart from metals and growing food, what do you think might be top-tier barter items? Well, did you not see toilet paper? Toilet paper is a key thing. But again, yeah, coffee, things that are also you can't live without or that are addictive. So cigarettes, medicines, alcohol, coffee, anything physical, frankly, is barterable. Anything. Also, any skills that you possess, well, they're barterable. Look at, we trade our skill sets for our income. So any skills that you have, anything physical, I mean, even this cup is barterable, but toilet paper is great. And I think we saw what happened in 2020 during the COVID crisis and the inability at the grocery store, food, canned food, anything. But things that people get addicted to, like the caffeine and the cigarettes and, maybe some medicine, more common, maybe, I don't know, antibiotics or something like that. But toilet paper, alcohol, anything physical, and skills. Skills. Go to your local farmer's market, meet who is growing and creating your food. Give them a day or so of your labor. You're creating a relationship and you're learning new skills. I can lay pipe for my gardens because I've done that. Do I want to do it? Heck no, I don't want to do it. But I know how. I can do it. If I have to lay irrigation, I absolutely can do it. So skills are another thing that's highly, highly barterable. Guns and ammo, barterable. Dr. Doom asks, a confiscation is extremely unlikely. I wouldn't give it too much thought. Just diversify what you hold. Domestic, foreign, and generic, even jewelry maybe. Well, I don't know. How many times does something have to be confiscated before it's more likely? We've done it in this country 3 times. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm dead wrong. I hope I am. I really do actually hope I am. But I do agree with you, Dr. Doom, that you want to be diversified. And there's all different ways that you can hold gold and silver and foodstuffs and all of that. And coming together in community is honestly our best shot. And getting gold back in the monetary system, that's really our very best shot. And Borel Class asks, the question is whether the U.S. people are ready to absorb the coming economic and monetary apocalypse. Well, no, I don't think they're ready at all. I think that most people are so busy trying to figure out how they're going to put food on their table and pay their inflated bills, insurance costs. What did I do with it? I thought this was really, I thought that was interesting too. But I think this is like really interesting. Rising health care costs pose challenge for workers. Employees of large and small companies are likely to face higher health care costs with increases in premiums, bigger deductibles or copays, and will possibly lose some benefits next year. According to a large survey of companies nationwide that was released on Thursday. Well, I got news for you. Have you not noticed this? Because I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And frankly, when Obamacare was coming in, I absolutely knew that was going to shift everything. We used to have a $500 deductible on our insurance plan for all of our employees. Now, I think, I don't even know what it is, but I think it's something like $7,000, and it costs us like more than double what it cost us before Obamacare. And I might also remind you of all the private equity that is going in and buying up all of these insurance companies and then creating these garbage products to put into your policies. If you look on any of your insurance contracts, what you will see is it is based on the claims paying ability of the company, which means they can do anything they want. And when things get really bad, too bad, so sad for you. You better have gold. And there's a way, no matter what you're looking at, whatever your policies are that you're trying to accomplish, then we use the fundamental value of silver and gold to determine how much gold do I need? How much silver do I need? Well, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to protect? Is it income? Is it as wealth that you've accumulated? Is it future income to send your kids to college or retire or whatever it might be? That's why it's diversified, because you have diversified needs. So no, I don't think the U.S. people are ready to absorb what they're going to deal with. And I do think that as human beings, it is our obligation to do what we can for people in our circle, in our sphere, and beyond that, right? So when I started the farm here, that's why I converted the entire exterior, and I'm on a corner, so I have a pretty large exterior yard, and I planted everything: citrus, moringa, jujubes, oranges, grapefruits, lemons. They also have, we do this on the exterior as well, zucchini, I mean, pumpkins, whatever it is, but planted on the exterior of the property. And my neighbors do come over and they'll get some bay leaves or a zucchini or what have you. And they're welcome to do it because I planted it knowing that when people are hungry and hopeless, they make choices they would not otherwise make. And so I'm hoping they recognize food in the wild, and that they, rather than destroying the plants, they just come back every day so that they can feed their family with them. I can't guarantee that one way or another. I can always put in new gardens if I have to. But that's my hope, because we have to, what we're asking people to do is have a paradigm shift. And that means they have to admit that what they believed in their entire lives was a big fat lie. And who wants to do that? Nobody. So you have to have empathy for it. It's great. I mean, I appreciate so much that we're seeing the writing on the wall and we're doing something about it. But we are the troops. We are the army. I consider myself a warrior. That's what I consider myself. So, yeah. EMM asks, what is a pre-33 as opposed to a gold eagle? It is a coin, a U.S. coin that was minted prior to 1933, which was when the last overt gold confiscation happened. So this particular coin was minted in 1903. This particular coin was minted in 1914. But you can see that they are all pre-1933. This coin, 1894. So pre-33 are those coins that were minted prior to 1933. And when I talk about the foreign gold, like this rooster, needs to be minted prior to 1948. And that's because they made an awful lot of new restrikes, which is also the reason why I'm not nuts about ducats, because they did a ton of brand new Swiss franc restrikes, 1948. So just to be on the safe side, if you're doing any foreign gold coins, just make sure that they're minted prior to 1948. And history eyewitness. Confiscation is an antiquated concept belonging to a different time in human history. Won't happen, can't happen. Well, I don't think you're really witnessing history, because if I can't say everything that I want to say, that is a form of confiscation of my right to free speech. Inflation is a form of confiscation of your work and your wealth, particularly when this stuff doesn't keep pace with the inflation that they create. So taxation, that is a form of confiscation. And if you think you only get taxed on your income, you might want to think about that again, because you're paying an awful lot of taxes. That is a form of confiscation. So I'm sorry, my friend, but I'm going to disagree with. I appreciate you bringing that out, and that's why I read it. I don't read anything beforehand to determine, I don't want to answer that or whatever. I like all comers, and I want everybody to put that out there because we are working together. But confiscation is absolutely not an antiquated concept. It is the words that they use, but a rose by any other name is still a rose. And confiscation by any other name, royalties, taxation, inflation. How about, oh God, what are we going through right now? That name, I must be getting tired. Tariffs. Those are all forms of confiscation. Think again, my friend. Open your eyes to the history that we are living through, because this will be one, it'll be hundreds of years before people will be living through this again. And George Bawden says, hi, Lynette, did you see Mike Malone's video? I didn't. of a country that is using gold for purchasing stuff in a store by the gram. I have not seen that, but definitely mark that down because I will take a look at it. And my guess is it could be Venezuela because I've had some articles on that where, yes, and also in Zimbabwe where you have able-bodied people that go out and pan for gold and use that gold. So I haven't seen that, but I'll take a look at it, and if it's a good one, we'll share it because, yeah, people think that can't happen. Oh, there we go. That's my
Venezuela y vamos a ver cómo se paga el supermercado.
Venezuela.
Bueno, vamos a ver en el super que se llama la Gran Manzana. Todo el pueblo, El Dorado y alrededor de El Dorado, creo, todos los precios son en gramo de oro. Mira, 0.040, 0.030 gramos de oro. La tomate, 0.010 gramos de oro. Si tiene un auto por tu niño, 3.90 gramos de oro. Una silla, 0.6 gramos de oro. Congelador, 2.6 gramos de oro. ¿Tiene calor? Compra un aire, 1.4 gramos de oro, 3.5 gramos de oro. La pasta, 0.02 gramos de oro. Bueno, todo es así. Si quiere una botella de Santa Teresa, 0.34 gramos de oro. Quiere la crema de whisky, Belize, 0.39. Un whisky, 0.25 gramos de oro. La mala postada, 0.06 gramos de oro. ¿Qué va a tomar ahora? Un whisky Old Par. Con los amigos venezolanos.
Mucho hielo.
Claro. Ya, gracias. ¿Tiene oro? Mira, ¿ese qué?
Sí, oro de plancha.
24 caras. 24K.
Sí, 24 quilates.
¿Cuánto?
Ese es tu regalo.
Muchas gracias. Mira. Vamos a ver a la caja cómo se hace para pagar. ¿Cómo se paga?
Is it starting again or are they concluding?
They conclude and they go through that.
Well, there you go. So, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for bringing that up because I didn't see that, and that's fabulous. I've seen others, and that's why I said it's either Venezuela or Zimbabwe because I knew that that's where they were doing it. Thank you so much for bringing that up because people go, oh, that can't happen. Yeah. And Jeff Garland, if you had to add one thing to the awesome prepper mantra, what would it be and why? The one other thing that I would probably add, but I kind of feel like it's covered, but not everybody sees it, would be medicinal. And we will be doing medicinal gardens, so you'll get a chance to experience that. But I have that under food because food is the most important drug that you put in your body. And if I'm looking good, it's because I am super careful about what I eat. And I grow most of it. And during 2020, I grew 100% of it because we do have our own meat birds. And so therefore I can control what the birds are eating, and you are what you eat. So it would be medicine. Because I think it is easier for people to see it in two different classifications. That's just not, you need to understand the mantra I developed when I bought this property, and I said, okay, what do I need to sustain a standard of living? And that's how the mantra was developed. But I do put medicine in the food category. I would break it out and have two separate categories. And I think in the work that we're doing, for the mantra images, we are kind of doing like a little subcategory in medicine. And Ren Pixie asks, I only have Social Security as income, home, property, mortgage free, buying precious metals as I can. How will this reset affect Social Security payments? It won't, the money that they give you, I'm sorry, it won't buy anything. So in your preparations, I'm going to really encourage you to start growing some food and to do a little bit where you can accumulate water. And coming into that community of people where, oh, maybe you live in an apartment and you can't really go out and grow all your own food, but there are other things that you can do, and this person over here has massive gardens, right? This is the importance of local community, because when the crisis becomes apparent to everybody and people panic, things get very local for a while. And so, what's the point of community? Well, the point of community is everybody brings in the skills and the assets that they have, and then you work together. So like in the community that I'm building for my bug out, we have doctors, we have teachers, we have farmers, we have plumbers, we have electricians, we have kids, we have older people. We've got a truly diverse mix of talents, skill sets, and ages. It's a real community. So I really encourage you, Ren Pixie, go to a local farmers markets and start to create your community there. Go to local community gardens. There may not be a plot available, but look, when you're gardening and you're farming, there's always work to be done. So learn some new skill sets, but build that community around you so that the Social Security payment, if it doesn't matter, you're in the best position. What if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? That's the point of the mantra, to help you be as independent and self-sufficient inside of community as possible, because one person really can't do it all. I mean, I've been working on this. I started really accumulating precious metals back in 2002. And then after 2008 hit, I'm like, holy crap, I didn't think that I would really see this in my lifetime. And so knowing that food is the single biggest issue for people, and we can see that unfolding on a global basis right now, I started learning how to plant and how to grow food, because honestly, if I could feed the whole world, I would absolutely do it. Absolutely. So I don't know how to do any of this stuff, but I know a whole lot more now than I did when I started. So I'm going to say, Ren Pixie, please develop that local community. Go to a farmer's market. Go to a meetup in the U.S. I don't know if they have this elsewhere, but in the U.S. they have what they call meetups, and it's based upon a group interest. You got to build your local community. That's how you're going to get through this and survive this, and make it so that the Social Security is irrelevant to you. That's where we have to get to. And Stephen Brewster asks, do you think it's an idea to possibly store a few baby items like disinfection products or nappies just as kindness for anybody struggling in any crisis, but not too much or create a shortage? Yes. I mean, when COVID hit, she denies that she was this frantic, but I can tell you she was, because I remember exactly where I was. I remember the exact conversation when Jacqueline called me, and she's like, oh my God, I'm out of toilet paper and I can't get any toilet paper. There's no toilet paper in the stores. And I said, calm down, don't worry. I've got plenty of toilet paper. You can have as much as you need. So yes, I do think that it's a great idea. It's also a good tool of barter. So yes, we need to help those that aren't aware as much as we possibly can. So accumulating anything that could be helpful to others is a very good thing. Very good thing. And Wolf asks, going to buy, and I'm not sure where you're going, but you're going to buy canned goods from Amish acquaintance. That's awesome. What points should I make to let her know what's happening to our economy, global too, and to invest in gold, precious metals? They don't use credit cards. Well, if you have some barterable silver, that would be the perfect thing to take in exchange for her canned goods. Perfect. That's what I would do, or something else that they might need. But if you want to teach them about metals, and honestly, we have something that I will be announcing, well, hopefully, because we've got to have everything in place. But I will also be announcing something that I will be just offering to those of you that are here live. And that'll be helpful for you as well to help educate other people on precious metals. Because after all, it's of silver and it has value. It's held its purchasing power. So stay tuned. And I know I say that we're working on a lot of things, but that's because we are working on a lot of things. Oh, news for you. We're all pedaling just about as fast as we possibly can. But yeah, I think it's a great idea to create that relationship with an Amish acquaintance or anybody else that's doing it. We'll be showing you how to can. Chef Jason will be doing a lot of that. We have on order a freeze-dry machine. So, how to, and even air drying food. I mean, I know Jason's got a lot of great videos to help you put back food regardless of what your circumstances are. And Uper Guy asks, do I have to report profits from precious metals sales to the IRS? Well, Uber Guy, what I will tell you is that all good citizens should always pay all taxes that are due. The difference between the precious metals, most of them or many of them, we do what we're supposed to do following the legal letter of the law. So there are many like this. There's no part of this transaction that we are legally obligated to report to the IRS. That is also true with American Eagles. So the new stuff, that's also true. But there's some other foreign gold coins. So any of the pre-33s, that's true, and American Eagles. But there are some of the other foreign gold and foreign silver that there are certain limits. But even though we are not legally obligated to report, you get to decide exactly how you want to handle it. But I will say again, all citizens always pay all taxes that are due, or they should anyway. A Resistance Chick 777. My question is about the changes in silver dollars from 35 to 65, the 65 to 25. What is the history? And also she's bringing up rounds. So it's interesting, but these the earlier silver dollars and up until the 65, these are all 90% silver. The new silver dollars, which I don't even have here, I should pull one. But the rounds or the American Eagles or any of the foreign silver is more pure because these are 90% and those are typically 0.999. So they are more pure. They're all silver. And the rounds typically are also 0.9999, four nines. You can get up to 5 nines, but the wholesalers charge you more on the way in. And this could be different now because I don't really do that anymore. So you can check with the strategy specialist. But it was my experience in the past that they would charge you more on the way in for a 5.9, but they wouldn't pay you the premium on the way out. So I didn't think it was really worth it. But yeah, it went from 90% silver to 0.9999 silver. And Melanie Reed asks, would 1973 considered a reset? Yes, it was. And actually they did 2 overnight resets. The first one, oh God, I don't know that I can hold the dates accurate, but you will see it if you go in to part 2, the part 2 of the video, where the first overnight reset was 10%. The second one was more than 10%, though I couldn't quite find a little bit more than 10%. So basically they did 2 overnight resets, but they did it at a low enough level that the population didn't notice it, right? If you do that full overnight reset and then you see spot go to 3,500 or 35,000, that's more noticeable than just if it goes up a few $100 here or a few $100 there, especially when people aren't holding it and using it as money, right? So those were the 2 overnight resets. That was at the beginning of this debt-fueled run. We're now at the end of that debt-fueled run. So something can happen. Well, I don't know. You're either going to be right or you're going to be wrong. If I can do something, doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong, rock and roll hoochie coo. That is the choice I will make 100% of the time. And if I have to pay a premium for it, that's my wealth insurance. I don't care, especially when I know how much something is really worth. Is this a bargain, right? Is it undervalued, fairly valued, overvalued? Do I want to buy it? Do I want to hold it? Do I want to liquidate it? And so yes, Melanie, absolutely, that was a reset. And Solidify, Lynette, question for you. Do you think silver will hover around $40 for the next little bit before it starts to shoot up more? It could, because technically it is overbought. Remember how I talked to you about those moving averages, 200-day moving average? So every day for 200 days, they total up where silver closes and they divide it by 200, and there's your 200-day moving average. And that changes every single day. Well, that 200-day moving average kind of works like a rudder on a ski boat, let's say a ski boat, right? And so if that's the rudder, we know if you're skiing behind that boat, you're only going to be able to go that far or that far before you have to come back to center, right? 10% away would be considered a lot. So I would look at where the 200-day moving average is, and you can go into stockcharts.com and you can do this for free. You don't have to have a subscription. And you'll pull up, it's the $, SILVER, and that'll give you your spot silver chart. And on there, it'll show you and tell you what that 200-day moving average is and where the current price is. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't go way more than 10%, and I'm pretty sure it's way more than 10% away from it right now. So one of two things happen. Either the price contracts back toward that 200-day moving average, or to your point, it stays in a range, giving that 200-day moving average an opportunity to catch up. You know, because there's a gap, it's a little teeny gap, but there's absolutely a gap. What's a gap? It closed at over here, and when it opened the next morning, it opened here. And the difference between those two prices are considered a gap, right? All gaps must be filled. That's why I like the technicals, because they all work the same no matter what it is that you're looking at, and even when they try and hide it. And when I teach you these things on a longer term basis, because I'm a long-term investor, well, what do traders do? They just take all of those same formulas and they just compress it into a shorter time frame. So I think it is certainly possible that it stays in a range, but I also think it's probable it will at some point, I just don't know when, to go in and fill that little teeny gap before it then extends it further. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but even at this price level, it's so severely undervalued. Does it even really matter? I don't care. I don't care. You know myself. You know, I buy it when I have the money to buy it. I don't wait, because what we're not going to know is the second before we lose that choice. That's my concern because of where we are, particularly in this trend cycle. And Dr. Doom asks, gold will hit 4,000 next year and will probably be 10,000 before 2029. I think it'll be way past that. The central banks are pricing us out on purpose. Get it while you can. You know, the central banks don't want you to hold gold because once you hold it, it's invisible to them. There's nothing they can really do about it other than manipulating the visible price that you see. So, Dr. Doom, I agree with you. Get it while you can. Absolutely. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Do what you can as quickly as you can. Don't worry about the prices. They're all severely undervalued. And Chewy Hermosillo says, guys, do this now. Borrow as much as you can. Transfer that money to store it. Go file bankruptcy. And then use the stored money to buy a cash flowing asset. Well, that doesn't sound quite ethical to me. But everybody's got to do what they're comfortable doing. I personally would not even consider doing something like that for basically the same reason why I wouldn't consider buying Bitcoin at this point, because my ethics won't allow me to do it. So I cannot recommend that. But everybody's got to do what they're comfortable with. I can't dictate that. And I think you would be way better off putting it into undervalued gold. And then when we see this bottom accumulation pattern, that cup formation, you start to convert this into that. That's a much better, more ethical, but also the currency loses all of its value. This does not. It retains its purchasing power value. So... And Brett Piloff asks, any advice on what I can tell my mom to buy sound money? My dad even had some collectible Morgan dollars in his bank box after he passed. She's in her 70s, as am I. You know, I did a video. Did we ever redo the purchasing power video?
No, the closest we did was the bread.
The bread. Show her the bread video that we just did. And I would also, what I would really do too, show her that video and then take her on the Federal Reserve Education Department website, the FRED, F-R-E-D, and in the search bar, put purchasing power of the consumer dollar. So this is not me telling her. She will recognize her own experience, but it's the Federal Reserve. And show her how on that bottom left axis, that is a big fat 0. And we are not far from that. That might have an impact. And it's also short and concise. Here we go. Hi, guys. You're probably wondering what this is all about. Well, you know, a lot of people walk around with rose-colored glasses or blinders on so that they cannot see the truth. And you know, what is my very favorite question? How many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? Right as I wanted. So you can see that Josh is speeding up the video, so you don't have to look at the whole thing. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I mean, it's 186 loaves. That's what this little $1 gold coin would actually buy. Originally, it bought 11 loaves. 11 loaves. And you can still do that video with silver.
We'll link that video in so that if she wants to use this for her family and friends, she can do that.
That's 16 loaves of bread. So that silver dollar, there you go, can still buy you the same amount of food. That's why I like silver for barterability. Okay, so awesome. There you go. And that's what I would show. I would show any skeptics, because we all have to remember our own experience too. And that's all I'm doing, is reminding people of what they actually really already know. So good luck with that, Brett. And I have more things coming. We have more things coming. And Patrick C. Tube. Hello from Patrick, Tampa, Zangang. Hey, Tampa. If needed, does your staff consult with attorneys, accountants to create a client plan? Give some example, please. Yes, we work very closely with businesses and people's attorneys, whatever we need to do, because if they're the ones that are helping you manage or plan your wealth preservation, yes, we need to be part of that plan. It's very easy to do, and I've even been known to come in on that. It's like there's only so many hours in a day, so I kind of hesitate, saying that. But quite honestly, I work with the strategy specialists directly on a weekly basis. They all know where I live. They all have my phone number, so they can also text me or call me randomly, but 100% we do and will work with anybody's accountants, attorneys, other brokers, because there are more stockbrokers now that we're talking to that want to offer their clients physical gold. They're just not quite set up to do that. So there are lots of things that we're working on, but not a problem at all, Patrick. We are very happy to help, and you would be part of that. So that's probably the one caveat, is that you would need to be part of any conversation that we were having so that you're hearing it clean and can ask any questions to clarify, etc. But yeah, 100%, we're happy to do that. And SB for the 1040. Can you explain to us what a stable coin is? I don't understand them. That is the point. But what a stable coin is a digital surveillance currency that is created by private corporations like Amazon, Walmart, or JP Morgan. It can also be issued by different states and governments. And it is a digital coin that according to the stablecoin legislation must be backed 1-to-1 with dollars. So it is simply another form of dollars. That's all it is, but it's a backdoor way to get surveillance money into the system, because in the US, oh no, we are not doing any CBDCs. So you either have the Federal Reserve putting their finger on the pulse and pushing interest rates well below zero, eroding your principal, or you have Amazon that knows what you like to buy. And both of them could utilize AI, understanding your habits and your thought process and maybe your weaknesses, and then nudging you to their bidding. So a stable coin is backed 1-to-1 with dollars, which means that as the dollar loses its purchasing power value, so do the stable coins. It is no better, but it does get you used to a full surveillance fiat currency. And if that's, if we've done unstable coins, but this cannot be hammered home enough. And basically, the more you buy, the more stable coins there will be in existence. But if you've got a whole bunch of entities that are issuing stable coins, if it's like, I know in Hong Kong, they're talking about issuing their own stable coins, they're not going to back them with dollars. They're going to back them with Hong Kong dollars or maybe the Chinese yuan, right? So it's not limited. We, the U.S., just kind of got to the party first. So there are a number of third world countries, like particularly Africa, where their currencies are hyperinflating. And so the population there has adopted stable coins because the perception is that this is more stable, right? It's not losing value as quickly as those other currencies are. But it will soon be doing that. But that's what a stable coin is. It is just a digital surveillance fiat money that they're bringing it in this way or they're bringing it in that way. However they're going to do it, that's what it is. And Neo the Wise asks, isn't government coming in and thank you. Okay, isn't government coming in and owning 10% of Intel a step too far in the public-private partnership into controlling what goes on in the chips? Communism? Neo the Wise, you are indeed wise. And the melding of corporations with government is actually referred to as fascism. So we haven't been a democracy in a very long time. It is just our cover-up that it's a democracy. But let me tell you, if I really have to watch what I say or risk being terminated, I know a lot of people during COVID, I can say it now, but if I said it back in 2020, boom, I'm off the channel. So getting me to watch what I say, which I unfortunately have done that since, because I need to be in front of you, which goes back to an earlier question. Yes, it really is. And going in and buying a corporation that makes chips, and it really does give the government more control, which we see the federal government taking more and more and more and more and more control. Yeah, we live in very interesting times. Communism, socialism, fascism, all those isms. How about a democracy again? I don't know. I kind of like that idea. Let's vote. Let's vote, because this levels the playing field. These cryptocurrencies do not level the playing field at all. They just actually ratchet up your loss of control. And Neo the Wise also asks, what happens to assets like fancy sports cars and hyperinflation and reset? Should one sell them now or wait post-reset for more profits? Well, post-reset, there won't be more profits. So if you have a fancy car, this is the best time to liquidate it, because during the reset or during the hyperinflation, I mean, I think I have an image somewhere of a guy with a very gorgeous fancy car with a sign on it for $100. You have to liquidate things if you need the money. And if you're forced into that liquidation, the chances of it being at market when we're in a hyperinflationary depression is slim to none. So we've seen that. We've seen that with the crypto billionaires or millionaires that bought all of these, Rolex watches and fancy cars and all of that. And then we went into a crypto winter and all that stuff came back on the market and pushed down the prices of the Rolexes and the watches and the fancy stuff. So if you have a fancy sports car that you don't want to keep, then it is much better to liquidate it now than wait until we're in a hyperinflationary depression. And Mark Kiernan, like they're doing in Turkey, right? And Mark Kiernan asks, when do you see it going to the 4,000 mark? It shot up this week. Well, these are a trading market, and with the traders very concerned about what's happening geopolitically. I mean, President Trump just changed the Defense Department to the War Department. Now, yes, that was historically the name, but I think that there's a lot in the change of that name. Because I think that what he's trying to show the world is how strong and powerful we are, and that we won't hesitate to use whatever we have, whatever assets we have at hand to push through our agenda. So this is why you're seeing spot gold spike, because it is the true flight to safety asset. Debt can never be a true flight to safety asset, because you cannot solve a too much debt problem with even more debt. So 4,000 mark, I mean, when I looked earlier today, we were somewhere above 3,600. So it's only 10%-ish or so away, a little bit more than that. I mean, it doesn't mean it wouldn't be technically overbought, but that it could happen anytime because we're seeing the price. I remember we talked about this way back in 2002. Seriously, if you saw a 50-cent move in a day, that was a ginormous move in the spot gold contract. And we said at that time, there will come a time where we will see $50 and $100 moves in a day, which is what we're seeing right now. So for us to see a $300, a $500 move in a day lies in our future, but wouldn't surprise me. So honestly, a 4,000 could happen at any time. It just depends on how nervous the traders are. And we were earlier talking about bond vigilantes because the bond market is the largest market other than the derivative market. The derivative market dwarfs everything. So a derivative is a big bet that is based upon the price action of the underlying asset. And it could be anything. It can be stocks or bonds or gold or weather or credit or debt or interest rates or any of that. It was a derivative that almost toppled the system with long-term capital management in the late 90s. It was a derivative on mortgages that toppled the system in 2008, though the toppling started before that. It will be a derivative explosion because I'm telling you, there are a ton of derivatives that are not doing well simply because we had 15 years of zero interest rate policy. So all of those contracts that were written against that debt at ZIRP, zero interest rate policy, well, when those interest rates went up, they are all underwater, all of them. But it's the guys that create this garbage that determine the market price of this garbage, that nominal or notional price of this garbage. And everybody admits that nobody knows the true value at risk. We're all going to know it. And it's going to be very painful when we do. For some of us, it's not going to be as painful, but we're going to have to help everybody. We're going to have to help our neighbors. We're going to have to help our community. We're going to have to, in my opinion. I mean, everybody gets to do what they want to do, but I feel like the reason we're all here is to share the gifts that we've been given. You've been given a huge gift in awareness that we can't fault people for fighting that paradigm shift. We have to be there because they will have it, but they will have it when they can't do anything about it. You're doing it now. And I applaud you for that. But it also brings a lot of responsibility with it. That's all I can say about that. And Jared H. asks, where do you recommend storing, hiding your gold and silver in a suburb neighborhood? Worried about break-ins. Could you also talk about different security measures to put in place? Absolutely. We will be doing a video on that. But again, if you call us, we have a whole list of ideas of different places where you can hide it, where it's not obvious. Because most people aren't thinking that somebody's got gold in her house. So when I was in my condo, which obviously I'm not there anymore, when I was in my condo, I created a whole bunch of hiding places. If you have stairs, well, and you take that top little wood piece off the stairs, you can create a false stair and you can store gold in there. Is anybody going to think that you have gold in your staircase? No, they're not. You can take, if you have a fireplace. I had a client that took out some of the bricks. She never used her fireplace. So she just took out some of the bricks, made it easy for her to reach in, right? And she put some of her gold there. I had another client that lived down on a farm, and he had some large equipment that he could move stuff. So he put it in PVC pipe and he waterproofed it, and then he buried it, and he put a ginormous boulder on top of it. So that means you need a piece of equipment to move it, to find it. But we have a whole list of different places where you can hide it. Having said that, I also think that it's important to diversify. One of the reasons why I'm so excited to do the Nomad Capitalist Live event is because they are about diversifying your where you can live into different countries. And I intend to attend a lot of any of the classes that they're giving where I'm not a part of. I plan on participating. So stay tuned, Jared, and everybody else, because honestly, when people would ask me before about moving out of the country, and I would say, where are you going to go, right? What's going to be different? Well, I'm kind of changing my mind about that. And yes, I have a bug out location, and it is off-grid and independent and self-sufficient, and we are growing food and all of that. I'm not 100% convinced that I'm now comfortable with just that. So I will be talking more about this as I know more about this, and we'll get you connected in. And actually, I'm going to have Andrew from the Nomad Capitalist Live on our channel. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to come out, but we're going to do the interview tomorrow. It won't be live. We'll record it. And so I will ask him some of those questions as well and begin to explore that more. Thank you for that question. And Larkspur Glory asks, what can we do with our 401k if we can't take it out yet? I'm thinking money market accounts won't be safe. There's not, until you can do gold inside of your 401k, they're not going to be safe. And even with those 401ks, if they make it so that you can only do the monetary metals. So what you can do with your 401k is you should call your administrator and see if they have an in-service withdrawal roll over election. In-service withdrawal roll over election. If they do, then you would be allowed, you have to read the documents, and I haven't read this in a long time, but the last time that I did, you would then have the ability to move 50,000 or 50%, whichever is lower, into an IRA. And once it's in an IRA, you can take a distribution, or you can do it inside of an IRA if that's where your level of comfort is. That is not my personal level of comfort, but you have to do what's right for you, regardless of what anybody says. So if you can do that, then that would at least free up some. And I would take possession. I did take possession. You do what you want, but I did take possession, and this is what my retirement's in. Not just this, but this kind of stuff, the gold and the silver, and I'm executing the whole strategy. Either way, whatever wealth you've accumulated in your 401k, you want to be diversified and you want to have gold outside of it so that if that goes away, you're made whole, right? Remember, this is full circle. No matter what you've done or you can and cannot do with the sound money strategy, we are going to make sure that you have recouped whatever you use up in barterability, whatever you can't pull out and you need to protect, and so that fiat money wealth goes away. Any taxes that you have to pay or you will have to pay. I mean, all of it is about recouping it, not just using it up. And the reason is simple, because if you use up all of your principal, you have nothing to work with for growth. So we want to make sure that at the absolute minimum, whatever you've accumulated and whatever the cost is for you to reposition gets recouped, period. That's an important part of the strategy. And Gina Young asks, hi Zang Gang, hi Lynette, I cannot afford the slabbed coins. I have to buy 1 gram. So how does that work for a strategy? I have Sari helping me. She's awesome and she will, but I don't understand what to do or how. Well, again, we're working on some different programs that even if you are limited in budget, it wouldn't prevent you from accumulating that. But I'm sure Sari is then taking you into the foreign gold coins or different things like that to give you, or the fractional pieces, to give you the level of protection that this gives you. Because President Kennedy, I think it was 62, gave the foreign gold coins a similar protection layer like the pre-33 slabbed coins. So, and Sari's great. She has lots and lots of patience. So she'll work with you on that. There are ways to do it. You just want to still stay pre-33, but maybe your foreign gold coins, maybe your fractional coins would get you there and give you the ability to accomplish that. And Christian Roman says, since Peter Schiff gold would go up to 12,000, what is your silver prediction? Thank you for everything. You're very welcome, Christian. And I think Peter Schiff is light on that prediction, because right now, as we sit here, the fundamental value of an ounce of gold is substantially higher than 12,000. So I can tell you that the fundamental value of an ounce of gold is somewhere around 40 grand, and the fundamental value of an ounce of silver is somewhere around 1,200, 2,000, 1,200, 2,000, something like that. That's my prediction. But that's only today. The more of this that they do, the higher that number goes. Make no mistake about it. And we'll see it. We'll see it for sure. Tom O'Connor asks, hi Lynette, what do you think of this? Devalue the dollar, drop it at least 50%, usher in a stable coin to drive up the price, pay off the debt, then manipulate the stable coin market downward. Well, they've already devalued the dollar 97% officially, and usher in a stable coin to drive up the price. So if I'm understanding what you're saying here, Tom, correctly, with a lot of people now using stable coins, so therefore these corporations have to buy dollars, right, through the treasuries or what have you. And if enough of that happens, that would push the value of the dollar up, well, against other currencies, pay off the debt. They couldn't push the stablecoin value up enough because it's based on the dollars. So that really actually wouldn't work. See, this has no intrinsic value. It costs virtually nothing to create, and the stable coins and all that, it costs even less. This at least is paper and ink and stuff. So they have to, when they revalue a currency, they have to take something that has no intrinsic value and they revalue it against something that's all intrinsic value. Stable coins have the same intrinsic value as dollars. And they have never, I mean, if you look at it, and even if you go into 2008, can you pull this up? Because I do think that this is super interesting, the purchasing power chart. And what I want you guys to see is what happened to the purchasing power between 29 and 33, or after 33, I think 29 and 33. Okay? And what's that red line? Is that Bitcoin? Bitcoin. Yeah. Okay. So I don't really know why you pulled that one, but that's okay. I can make my... Just, if you're in the Fred, then we don't really need, but you can see where they created it. But you know what? Let's use that chart. Let's use it. Okay? Because it actually is kind of perfect, to be honest with you, since it shows you that at the end of the fiat money system, when one currency dies, fiat currency dies, another one is born. That is exactly what you were seeing in that chart. Exactly what you were seeing. But can you zoom in between where you see the purchasing power goes up in like 1930, 1929? Yeah. Can you make that bigger, that area? Because it looks like the dollar regained some of its purchasing power, right? Thank you. That's perfect. It looks like the dollar regained. Do you recall anybody ever reading or saying how things got so great during the Depression? But what happened was there were fewer dollars in circulation. So it made it look like the dollar regained it. Now, can you do that same thing and show them 2008? Because many of you would actually probably remember 2008 and how prices went up so rapidly. Oh, you went to 1990? No, I want it more narrow. But you can see it actually in there. So if you do 2000, yeah, there you go. You see how it looked like in the middle of the financial crisis that the purchasing power went up. No, what was happened was deflation, right? Where things were imploding. It is just an optical illusion. But do you remember during that period of time that every time you went to the grocery store, prices were noticeably higher, 25 cents, 50 cents. Now it's worse, right? So people think that the currency, it's one of the things that they knew when they were setting up the system, that people cannot but help think that at some point this currency must regain some of its purchasing power. It never, ever, 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 ever does. It just doesn't. And this time is not different. They create the Stablecoins because they need to shift us into that system. But that purchasing power chart with the Bitcoin on there, how do you create that? You get eyes on it. That's how you do it. Yep, you just hit the if you hit the max, yeah. So you can see it. It's the death of one currency and the birth of the next fiat currency. All they have to do is get you used to it so you don't think anything has changed. Everything has changed. What stabilizes you is gold. That's what stabilizes you. This crypto stuff, you know, all right, I'm old, but it hasn't passed a test yet. It hasn't. I don't care what you say. It hasn't passed the test. Will it? I don't know. Maybe it will. If it does, and you hold your purchasing power, you're going to be able to buy it. If it doesn't, you're holding gold, it's not going to matter to you. Do you realize they must burn off this debt before we can move forward? And, okay. That's it for today. I hate to leave when there are more questions, but I have to because I do have something after this. But this has been fabulous. And look, I'm going to miss it because this is truly my very favorite day of the week. And I look forward to it all the time. Thank you guys so much for being here. You know, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. We've got more things coming in, and make sure that you give Emerald some support while I'm away. But I'll also be sending you in some things from our adventures. And I'm going out there in this world to push sound money back in the system for all of us. for all of us. Because one person, what can I do? I'm just one person. But together, we can accomplish anything. And until next we meet, truly, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.